go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is March the 18th, 2026, and it's actually 6:04 p.m. and we're calling the meeting to order. This will be a meeting of the Freeport City Civil Service Commission. The meeting is being live streamed via YouTube. That address is https://www.facebook.com/Freeport, Texas, or by visiting the YouTube channel, which is the https://www.youtube.com/City of Freeport 8375/streams. In accordance with Section 551043 of the Texas Government Code, this agenda has been posted at Freeport City Hall and distributed to the appropriate news media within the required time frame. All meetings of the Freeport Civil Service Commission are open to the public, and public participation and written comments are invited to all of the open session business items. The Commission requests that cell phones be turned off or set to vibrate, and members of the audience are requested to step outside and conduct their phone conversations if needed. The council chamber is wheelchair accessible, and special parking is available outside the building. If special accommodations are required, please contact the Human Resources Director a minimum of 72 hours in advance to make arrangements at 979-233-3526. So with that, we'll stand in for the invocation. Mr. Hernandez will give the invocation for us.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity. Lord, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to gather this evening. Lord, we ask you to bless this meeting, the people that are present, and those who are watching at home. We thank you, God, for being so good to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. For citizens' comments, I see none in the audience, and I don't think things are set for online yet. Okay, perfect. So then the next order of business would be to review the minutes that were distributed by Ms. I think it's Fernandez, Clarissa, sent them out to us, and I need to see if there's any changes, deletions, corrections, or modifications. And seeing none, if none, we then would need a motion to accept.
Make a motion, we accept the meetings,
All right, I have
meeting minutes as written.
I've got a motion to accept the meetings as written. Need a second.
I second.
All right, I have a second, and so we will take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And there's all in unanimously approve that. So the minutes are approved, and then we will. Give me 1 second while I just sign these and hand these off to Dr. Kelly, so I don't forget. All right, it brings us up to the next item on the agenda is discussion and possible actions regarding the review and the presentation from Mr. Chief Motley from the Freeport Fire Department. And the goal of our discussion is we're reviewing Articles 3 and Articles 4, respectively, as they relate to the classification and some other things with the Freeport Fire Department and with and Chief Howell from the Freeport Police Department. So we will, it depends on which one of you want to go first. And we're just trying to get some general information and limited scope to the questions that we generally had asked you from the last meeting. And for the audience that may be watching online, we're going straight to, and to being in difference to the, both chiefs have probably been working all day, so we can get them in and out, and then we can move on with the other business that we have. So it'll be item 8 that we're starting with Chief Motley.
I was a little confused until you explained that, like, we're starting at number 6 and going forward from there. I put together a cover letter for tonight's discussion, and kind of want to read it too, so everybody watching out there will see what some of the questions I've raised as I've done the review that you've asked for the sections you've asked us to look at. Even looking at the disciplinary actions and appeals and hearing process timelines, it took a little while to figure out what that was. And in the civil service manuals I was looking at, it's not covered specifically by that title. So looking at it again this morning just opened up what you were looking for. So I did include it in this packet as well. Predominantly, most of my stuff came from Athens and Forney. I did some comparison over San Marcos, but what I'm going to cover in here, let me just go ahead and start off. As we transition into a civil service agency, I've reviewed tonight's agenda related civil service matters, including entry-level hiring eligibility, promotional eligibility, seniority calculations, disciplinary actions, and appeals and hearing process timelines. A little background on Freeport Fire and EMS is relatively a small organization, currently staffed with a total of 19 employees. The administration division consists of a fire chief, 2 deputy chiefs, one is an EMS coordinator, and the other is a fire marshal, and 1 administrative assistant. All but the administrative assistant, we still hold our structural firefighting and our EMS certification, so we backfill in the field or lead by command, or if we need to staff an ambulance, we're available to still do that at the same time. Our operations division staff includes 3 fire EMS lieutenants, 3 driver operators, that's an assignment, 9 firefighter EMTs, and on as a needed basis, the department utilizes 6 temporary part-time firefighter EMT positions and has available 6 temporary part-time EMS only temporary employees. These are to backfill staffing shortages. It initially kicked in during COVID, and we've managed to maintain it since then. Initially started with firefighter EMT, and then it got worse with the second round that we definitely have to answer 911, make sure it was covered. Additionally, the department is in the process of adding 3 firefighter positions through a FEMA assistance grant through the FG. That's in progress right now, and backgrounds are going on at this time. Asked that given the size of the structure of our department, careful consideration should be given to how civil service rules and processes are implemented to ensure that we are both effective and practical for an organization of our scale. Flexibility and clarity in these policies will be essential in maintaining operation efficiency while ensuring fairness and compliance. In preparation for tonight's meeting, I've compiled a review of a few fire and EMS organizations our size operate under the civil service system. Based on my research, I was able to develop written recommendations regarding entry level, hiring eligibility, and promotion eligibility. In addition to these recommendations, I have included a policy currently utilized by the department that aligns with FEMA AFG compliance requirements for internal investigations. This document reflects the same process used for internal investigation in accordance with Texas Local Government Code. EMS service and operational complaints or investigations are conducted under the direction of Texas Department of Health and Human Services, part of the quality assurance program. So those are sealed documents when those go. Relative sections of the City of Freeport policy book were referenced in my discussion as well. Regarding the agenda on the seniority calculations, a detailed analysis was not completed for this review. However, recommend a provision include a minimum of 2 years of service prior to promotion eligibility. The agencies reviewed, provide limited guidance in this area that you asked about, and I was taking care to avoid any confusion with any civil service that had collective bargaining or meet and confer. So we just kept it basic. I did look at some that had it, but I was afraid I was getting too much in the weeds over there that did it legally qualified until you get a civil service attorney to take a look at some of my questions. So I'd like to further discussion and later on date with y'all, basically looking at regulations on the firefighter lateral program, non-classified firefighters. It's on the back page of your cover sheet there. It's a 2-page letter. temporary part-time firefighter and EMS personnel, temporary leave, line of duty illness or injury leave. And that's pretty much it. I've attached behind that, first off, started with the physical requirement examination, if you want to take a look at that at all. As I was going through this, a lot of this was reminded some of the things we'd already crossed just in regular backgrounds of employees. So it came, hey, this needs to be in here because actually we did this because it was based off of this, you know, not being truthful or not filling out an application correctly, things that HR would kick out, things like that as we go through our process. So you asked for eligibility on promotions and stuff like that, or entry level, that's on the physical requirements and examination. Where I submit, actually this will be adding something to our department, would be the, we already do a physical agility test and a computer written exam. It's third party, so it's not us creating a document, here it is. So it's validated. We've been using that probably for about 15 years. In here is recommended to add the psychological exam. I think a lot of things we're looking at in this is almost law enforcement and public, anything under public safety and the fire service is probably going to end up being parallel with everything that's required, existing right now for law enforcement. If you go over to the next page, page 2, eligibility for beginning positions. We went through that with detail. I meant to take this out. Number 12 needs to be taken out. We do not mandate paramedic training, but I was meant to change that to conditions of employment of any training agreements. The city has some reimbursement that's tied into that, or we may look down the road of, hey, this is a requirement, but I meant to take number 12 out. Yes, sir. But I highlighted it for internal discussion. I will say, go back up to number 1 on minimum qualification for civil service entry firefighters as established, be at the be at least 19 years of age and less than 36 years of age. I noted in my review, several agencies took out the upper limit or does not have it in there. I know it was an issue and a challenge during COVID, and the growth of emergency service districts was affecting the fire service. So some of them raised them to 41. I want to say it may be 40. They don't have a cap listed in their line. There's one thing I would like to take a look at, because we do get some folks in that 40-year range, late 30s, that are coming in the fire service or change careers after leaving industry.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that I was going to, have on that point, was because I know, I've been out of the business, full-time, in the, chiefing position, but I know that they removed the upper level limit on the age restrictions for law enforcement and for fire services, and it was based on their ability to do the job and meet your physical and mental and psychological standards. Mm-hmm. And the only one then, when I went out, that had a cap was the federal government.
Right.
That capped, hey, at this age you're out.
Right, 20-year working deal and you're out. Yeah.
So, but do you know, is that still in play on the police?
I'm going to have to research that.
Yeah,
and
so that's
find
probably
out.
a civil service
Yes.
attorney question we'll have
Yes.
to ask.
That's what my note here, and there's need further discussion. Upper age limit. Civil service rules and regulations have changed to the upper age limit to 41 is what I saw. Mm-hmm. Is this a local limit was my question.
Yeah, that's a good
So
question.
I need to, that's where I came from that. Also in this deal, I compared documents between, the police and fire. And I think what needs to happen is, in the end, the chiefs sit down and have the conversation and check the documents between each other, that they mirror each other in terminology or requirements. Like, for instance, the fire service in this particular group was talking about PAT test, physical agility test, and the other one has the physical fitness test. So it's kind of the same thing, but to me, in my mind, PAT is the International Firefighters Association set test that hasn't been challenged by EEOC. It's accepted by EEOC. So, but that costs money to buy that equipment and infrastructure for it. So,
Exactly.
as I went through this, under the qualifications and everything, I broke it down to be a little more specific because some of these are vague. And I've done a couple terminations for not holding licenses, but we define what those licenses are to be there. And also, I believe I added in here a caveat that they shall be maintained during employment. That was a history that the department had in the 90s and had trouble with paid firemen that were just strictly driver operators. They weren't required to run the ambulance because it was all volunteer. But when it came time to run it, they were running it with one certified or no certifieds on the truck. And that was a black eye from that era. I think on the driver's license, most of them cover about the Class B exempt. I added in there within 6 months. That goes tailors in right with our job description as well.
Okay.
So it's lining out what things we have. We talked about Texas Commission on Fire Protection, at least either showing evidence that they've completed it on their website, or evidence they're currently enrolled in basic recruit fire training. A lot of them did cover, but the one did, and we get those students that come to us and talk about, hey, I want to come to work for you. We encourage them to get their EMS, because then we know as soon as they pass that state test, all that paperwork comes together and it goes forward. So we want to keep that in there as well. Allows us more opportunity when there's not many choices out there. And that's number 14 where I'm talking about.
Right, correct.
And then number 15, I added on there. It's for y'all to take a look at, but also to give us the right approved eligibility list. Basically, in there, if they're a paramedic, firefighter, paramedic, they're top of the list as a choice. Because that's, in the end, that's what we're goal for. Normally, we can get a basic to an advanced EMT and a few to a paramedic, but that's its weight in gold in what we do out in the field as well. So a lot of things we do at advanced care level that's norm. The paramedic level in the end is about cardiac issues in the end. Most of our calls are not the cardiac, but when it does, it matters about those drugs being applied at that time, or medications, I should say. And then kind of broke down the 17, kind of broke it down a little more detail for you as well on what that level was we were looking at on preference. So, all right, next page, page 4. I just have a highlighted note in there on civil service entry. It says police officers are established as follow. I left it blank for law enforcement because it's in a typical format. But I had a note for myself to go back and look at the fire marshal's eligibility because they're tri-certified or tri-agency certified. You've got fire, EMS, and law enforcement. So sometimes that's a tough combination to catch at a time. Sometimes it takes about a year to fill that position. And we may have to just deal with promoting through the ranks with civil service in place as well. So
And that's for the fire marshal's position?
that's the fire marshal position. That's one of my deputy chiefs. They're classified in the budget book as deputy chief fire marshal and deputy chief EMS coordinator. They both have specific roles but can backfill over to assist in operations when needed. The rest of it, some rough notes I had written there as well, but they're not for a finished document yet. And then the next one over, eligibility for beginning the position.
That's on
Put this
page-
together, and I broke it down in detail.
Page
for you.
5.
Yes, sir, page 5. We cleaned all this up today, took out a lot of my highlights so it wouldn't confuse you as well, but that was my notes kind of thing. But like I said, I put together some things here that actually got down to define which agency, either Fire Commission or Texas Department of Health and Human Services. Really got into detail under what number 8, from number 8 on, applicants have been convicted or admitted to conduct which constitutes a felony under state and federal law to include UCMJ, conviction or omission or conduct that constitute a felony shall result in permanent disqualification. We go on to the next one, talks about Class A and Class B misdemeanors. And then it starts breaking it down, and I think it's going parallel with your discussion I saw in your minutes on illicit drugs and substances. This really gets into the heart of it because these are some of the things we faced in some of our background investigations or even termination of employees. If you go to page 6, A key thing that we had conversation because we had an applicant that had this rebuttal to Chief Praslika is under Section E. And we talked about an applicant has been convicted of, admitted to, receive deferred adjudication or pretrial diversion, but we have an applicant, I think in this county, the comment is seeing probation prior to judgment, and I need clarification on what that is, but we're catching that word in an application that's come to us. So I don't know exactly what that is, but it's something new out there that we're going to have to, as ourselves, as a department, go in and take a look at what's meant by that is, did they spend so much time in the jail that they've worked everything off to be sent out until everything's finished? I don't know what the term, or why that term is there, or why it was being used, so that just came up this week. So
Thinking that may mean that the judges basically deferred their adjudication as long as they go through some kind of probationary period where they don't get any more, any more trouble or violate any more laws, then they will give a judgment that they'll dismiss the case or give them some.
okay, it's just terminology that we need, I'd like to have some clarification on it as well. Yeah. And then as we looked in the driving record, stuff like that, some of them we have some speed racers, some of them they clean up after a while, things like that. We've only had one rejection based on driving record, and TML Insurance addressed that because we had some questions on it, and were they insurable? So as you continue through this is a lot, and it really goes by case basis, so it's subject to review and approved at that point. So it's not just automatic on the rest of the stuff going down the list.
I was hoping I'd find number G.
Do I know?
I said I was hoping I would find number G in there.
Yes.
Applicants demonstrate failure to pay just debts.
Yes. I didn't leave anything out.
Yeah.
That was a discussion today in the office. I said, when beginning my career, that was common on the application. And that was non-civil service, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you
And
can't
I
pay
think
your
if it-
bills.
I think it's even in our city policy
Yeah.
at one point, so.
Okay.
Page 7. We went into more detail on poor judgment skills and look at what that was, maybe what's in the background investigation coming out as well. It gives an example of such conduct, social function and control substance or dangerous drugs are consumed, such activities known or should have been known by the applicant, silent acceptance of a known illegal conduct by others or his or her presence, workplace behavior decisions that adversely affect the business or associates with little or no objectively justifiable need for such behavior. Rejection for this cause will be temporary until the applicant can demonstrate his or her judgment skills have developed. And we had a termination over that. Drug string came back positive out of one of them one time. Never would have thought it was that employee, but it came back. And then the rest of it's like we normally look at. We look at history, job history, stability, commitment. That kind of shows the commitment wherever they're going. That's in there as well. And then applicant has failed to meet all legal requirements necessary for future license and certification with the Texas Fire Commission. I still left TCOL in there because it was, I think I found this under the police department side as well, but it is applicable to us, and I just added Fire Commission and Texas Department of Health in that section. Okay, talks about military service with less than honorable conditions and lists those 4 different types under there. And then L, a question, partial history statement. What is an existing document in the process or one we have already? We have our background that we go through, but I think in looking at it and thinking about it, it's going to be the same as what a TCO packet is in the end. So, and I'm fine with that as well. Down at number 9, talks a little more about the convictions are admitted to the conduct of a felony or any state laws. References back to marijuana usage as well. And then it even talks about the very last one, applicant shall not be considered for employment while charges are pending for any criminal offense while he or she is currently on probation for any offense. So. Page number 8. These are the permanently, it looks like number 11 is about the permanently disqualified in this section as well. It gives parameters of where at and what time frames. It also includes involving abuse or misuse of medical marijuana or related marijuana substances, excuse me, and based on a case-by-case consideration. So it's not a rigid line. It's evaluated and go forward, so. Number 12, where we get into discussion of the facts of automatic disqualification on no more than 3 moving violations of the past 24 months, no DWI or DUI, convictions within the last 5 years, more than 2 at-fault accidents within the past 24 months, a driver's license currently suspended, revoked, or expired, hit and run within the last 10 years, suspension of driver's license for any reason in the last 5 years, a conviction for failing to maintain financial responsibility within the last 12 months, and then currently on probation for a traffic offense. And then, of course, definitely in there for post-offer physical and psychological examination disqualification. Page 9. Eligibility for fire department promotions and exams, it's spelled out there. I did write a note in yellow there, it should be in your packet as well. Note, returning firefighter of the department who left in good terms, receiving credit for previous years of service was, this is a note to ask y'all to take a look at. Basically, returning firefighter to the department who left on good terms, received credit for previous years of service with this department be counted, was a question that was presented to me by one of my deputy chiefs in our discussion. You know, they left good standing here, realized the grass wasn't greener, and then wants back. We've had pretty good luck. I think we have 2 that have left and come back, and they're still here today. But that was something that he brought to the attention. We'd like to see if that can be part of it, so I'm bringing that forward to you as well.
Yeah, I know in some of the policies that we looked at, they had that standing on the police side, that if they left in good standing and they came back, that they didn't have to retake the test and they can go back to the top of the list.
Top of the list, but fire, everything I looked on didn't, the law enforcement has it, but nothing in the fire documents even showed it. So kind of, that's that parallel difference they need to look
Yeah,
across.
we need to line it up.
Yes.
It definitely needs to be in an alignment.
And then internal promotion or anything found close to seniority was number 4. I believe that's what you were asking, seniority calculations. Like I said, I didn't find anything in detail. I can expand the parameters a little bit wider since you're looking at San Marcos as an idea, but also when I looked at San Marcos, it tied in salaries and pay grades and all that, but didn't want to get that involved because that's something that's managed at City Hall under what's been adopted. So that's it for number 9. Page 9, I'm sorry. Number 10, entrance exams. I stuck this in here because it was in, I believe Tyler, but it talked about eligibility of children of fallen firefighters, and we truly believe that that needs to be recognized. It talks about, outlines what that is. It's actually a line of duty death while serving as a civil service employee covered by 143, and shall be ranked to the top of any eligibility list in which said applicant receives a minimum passing grade on the respective eligibility exam. The deceased firefighter's applicant child must otherwise satisfy all requirements for eligibility for beginning position in the fire department as contained in 143. The director shall include appropriate questions on the city's entry-level application for firefighter to ascend whether or not an applicant is eligible for the preferred ranking as specified herein. So that really wasn't covered much with them in other documents I looked at, but kind of look at that as a priority. Page 11, I took off from the police officer side. You'll see the strikeouts, but I believe it qualifies for us as well, reappointment of firefighters. and just kind of inserted the fire chief for police chief or firefighter for police officer. So I'd like you to take a look at that and add that in there. I think it has value, very much value. And it still shows in the bottom, I guess, number 9, where they still have to have a year of probation starting. So they're still going through the probationary period, and then from what I understand, our civil service, the year of probation is not protected at that point. And this one kind of rolls down into page 12 on disciplinary actions. Cause for removal or suspension, lined them out. You know, when I looked at this, it almost looked like our city policy book already. But we went a little further in some of the things that were there as well. Cowardice. It does include violation of any rules and regulations of the fire department or general orders of the police department. It's versatile back and forth when I read this, so just keep that in mind, please. Or special orders as applicable, or the rules and regulations, or any of the city personnel policies, or any other city ordinance or policy applicable to police and fire and EMS department employees. We merged all that together for you for your review. And then section B on there in C, or actually B, I guess that'll come down to your decision. How do you want records transmitted back and forth to employees for receipt of copy, either electronically or printed form? I noticed that was in your minutes from your last meeting as well. Number 13, disciplinary suspensions, covered it. I believe it's pretty much common verbiage. But it also working time, off time suspended, actually put some actual hours in there if y'all are looking at that time frames, stuff like that as well under B1. Where they can forfeit vacation or holiday pay in lieu of it. Yeah. Any discussion on this so far? We doing good? Okay. All right, then the next one I kind of put remaining pages behind this page, disciplinary action appeals, which is the other part of this. I just already had a conversation with Toby every time. As soon as I would line up, justify everything, hit the button on the Microsoft, it started over 10 times with my same document. So I was ready to kill the computer by this afternoon. So the rest of what you have here is scanned, printed copies of what I was pulling from or referencing for this part. We don't have in our department per se here these timelines that you're asking about, or if they were years ago in the policy book, but I don't remember the last time we did internal investigation. I was bound to 10 days to have an answer. But I went ahead and took the document we're comfortable with to show you in detail here of one of the documents. So that's there for you as well to cover you all the way through. And covers even what the commission and stuff like that. Y'all going to make that ruling anyway. If you'll flip all the way past what would be page 51 at the bottom. Here's my policy that was written for Homeland Security on internal investigations, and the only thing in there as far as timeline on an investigation, if that's what you were needing, would be on, and even in this document I reference the Texas Local Government Code on investigations. Let me find it real quick. I think you also asked in civil service rules too, is a progressive discipline that's in this document as well. If I remember right, I'm trying to find it for you, 90 days to complete the investigation, but you keep all parties informed about every 2 weeks. And I think one of the things I saw, it can be delivered by email, conversation, or text message. Sorry about that. I didn't highlight it in a highlighter on the copy after I ran it, so.
That's okay, I just want to make sure I got that right. You say, so your investigations, normally it's a 90-day timeline with the notifications or updates every 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if there's anything better progress in 2 weeks, it's given as well. And then, you know, it may even say, hey, we're extending past this point or whatever. It's open communications on that to the complainant and those involved. And we filed a written complaint under the 614 of the Texas Government Code as well. And this document came about because complaints through Homeland Security, if there was a citizen complaint on how things were being done or what, if we discriminated, then we investigate the complaint based on this. So our partners who grant us funds have reviewed this document as well. And then the last document, or I gave an example, and this one's just like you mentioned, you were looking at on the firefighter lateral entry program. That is San Marcos's subcopy out of their folder. But I also would like you to look at the bottom of that document where it says C, non-classified firefighters. That's where it talks about part-time firefighters. And that 1,000 hours will tell you that that's tied in before we have to pay retirement funds, TMRS rule. We only have had one part-time go past that, but the policy is, actually, in order to go past that, I had to write the recommendation to the city manager, present it, and have discussion with the city manager and HR if we go past that. And then it's granted, and I believe there's a cap, I set it 1,300 hours, so we don't get to the 1,500 hours and have to provide medical benefits. Because under the Affordable Care Act, you still have you evaluate over a 12-month period, and then if you violate that, you have to provide the medical insurance for the next 12 months for that part-time employee, and we're not here to, they should have been a full-time if we're working that many hours. So it's a little research I did last fall on the whole topic. So, and if you're looking at basically how our city policy is on the next one, application process, that's what we are. We had already followed this long before this was adopted by council. Kilty gave specific instructions in his first 2 weeks because I was going through interview processes all at that time and covered it, but it was formally adopted in '24. And then the last one is something I haven't implemented yet, but that's what we're going to be looking at doing with probation employees. 3-month evaluation after an FTO program's finished. The FTO completion evaluation be completed, and then it runs parallel with our city policy. A 6-month evaluation in 1 year is what we're looking at. At least documentations, they're meeting the benchmarks, and then before they become a full-time or a permanent employee off of probation, at least have something shown and that we're up front with the employee. So, and it's a 2-page document. If you look at the back, where I've referenced as well in the footnotes where that ties back into the employee handbook.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is during the 12-month?
It hasn't been implemented yet, but that's what we're looking at going to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So during the 12-month probation, is there any plans to do any evaluations during that time? Or is it just time, after you complete your 12 months, you will be,
At that point, you'll have an annual evaluation, so it'll be done at that time.
okay, so just one final evaluation at the end of the 12 months?
At the end of the 12, we're looking at evaluating at 3 and 6 and 12,
Okay.
that they're on track. Because we have a challenge with them finishing their FTO book if they're left alone. Finding out if they're self-initiative, things like that. Some guys are good about it, some you have to remind, so. And that's just nature of management, yeah. Yeah. So, there's some smiling back there too, isn't there? Yeah. It's all said in joking fun, so. It's like we had a new young man start here, his first job. as soon as we told him we're going to the background, almost there, he said, well, I'll pack my bags tonight, I'll see you first thing in the morning. He had 4.5 hour drive to get here. And kind of, as a rookie, didn't start off on the right foot. One of the driver operators had a conversation. Now he's on the right foot and in my office, hey, Chief, I need you to sign my book and get me done. And on down he's being very productive now. So he was productive then. It's just need to teach him to communicate with us. So, yeah. Any questions for me right now? Did I cover what you needed? Okay. Because like I said, I was reading these individual line items and I got a little confused after a while, but it was all day looking at this, and let me just put it up and go home and let's look at it tomorrow morning. So any other assignments I need to work on? I do have some stuff that I like to cover, but I didn't put it in written form. I'd rather have it in written form, but I'll bring that back to Dr. Kelly on that discussion. Okay. That's all I have.
Hey, we appreciate all your hard work
Sure.
on this. This is, give us a good overview of where you guys are thinking. So,
I think we're all on the same page. It's just putting it together, make sure it's right the first go around.
yes, that's the goal.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, Chief Howell.
I'll just get inundated with papers tonight.
No, that's okay. We love reading. Thank you.
He said sarcastically.
Yes.
They work together.
Yeah.
Same thickness.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have attached here our current policies, which we are in the process of reviewing. Freeport Police Department is an accredited agency with the Texas Police Chiefs Association. The accreditation sets about set of directives that are followed, and currently there's a little over 200 agencies that are accredited in Texas, and there's 2,800 law enforcement agencies, and so it is something of a prestigious status, if you will. And there are civil service agencies that are accredited, and there's civil service agencies that are not accredited. So it does go both ways, but I would definitely express that I have an interest in maintaining that accreditation. And so the reason I provided you copies of these policies, if you see at the top of each of these policies, you'll see a reference number. And the reference, like the very first policy, hiring and selection, reference 2.23, reference 3.17, reference 4.01. Each of those is a directive with the Texas Police Chiefs Association. And then you can see in that policy where you will see the notation in parentheses referencing that specific directive. And so that's where it has a set of standards that have been established for the agency to maintain. So I wanted to be able to kind of explain those to you for you to have a bit of a guide, if you will.
And I want to commend you for getting accredited through that process. When I was here, I wasn't able to complete that, and just so you know, it takes a lot of work.
I can't take that credit. That
Yeah.
credit goes to Dan Pennington. He was the one who began the accreditation process for this agency when he was chief here. We have maintained it. It does have an audit process that's done annually, and then a very large in-depth audit that's done every 4 years. So I am pleased that we have been able to maintain that, and our next large audit will be in 2028. So like I said, as we go to update our policies to be in line with civil service, we do want to also keep in line with those best practices. And like I said, TPCA, or the Texas Police Chiefs Association, they created those practices to be able to also be in line with civil service. Matter of fact, the executive director currently of the Texas Police Chiefs Association was from a civil service agency for actually 2 civil service agencies for his 30-something year law enforcement career. So again, it's definitely definitely something that we want to be able to continue to maintain. But I wanted y'all to have an understanding of those reference points on the policy. So starting off for just our hiring and selection process, currently being non-civil service, if you will, we have the luxury for once we get an application in, we do individualized testing and individualized interviews. So we get an applicant, we reach out to that applicant, and we see what that applicant's schedule is. If it's someone that's working for another agency, then if we've got to do an interview or testing on Saturday or on a Monday night or whatever, we provide that flexibility now. Of course, we don't have any type of posting that we do like what's required with civil service, but again, just our practice that we're set up right now because everybody's fighting for the same people, if you will, when it comes to, well, police and fire both, first responders just as a whole, there's not enough out there to be able to cover all the agencies. And so we've tried to have as much flexibility as possible when setting up our testing process. So once our applicants do the written test, the physical test, and then they do an interview, and from that, if they are selected, then they generally go into the background phase. And so there's some information that's listed again in the policy, some of the different things we look at for disqualifiers. Of course, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement does set about certain standards, and of course we follow those standards. But then also too, we tend to sometimes look at totality of circumstances. And so an individual that maybe, received, 2 traffic violations this year, we look at, okay, what were those traffic violations? And did that individual have any before that? And what were the other things, in concern with their background? Is that the only thing that's in their background? So we don't do like direct, normally disqualifiers, if you will. Like I said, we kind of look at a totality of circumstance, but there are some that, like I said, are set back with TCOL, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who conducts the interview? Is it yourself, a sergeant? Or is it-
So when we do our interviews, Captain Brinkman is usually the individual who gets it set up, and we actually do it with kind of a mix of individuals from the department. So we always have a supervisor that's on the panel. It could be the sergeant of CID, it could be a patrol sergeant, it could be the CVE sergeant, could be one of the corporals, could have a detective on it, a patrol officer. So we do a mix of individuals, and then even sometimes too with our dispatch personnel that we have 3 to 5 individuals that we pull in for those. So that's the initial interview. For final selection, at the final selection phase, then at that point I do an interview.
Thank you.
So you can see kind of going through the policy as far as that, we do the basic checks. Of course, like I said, running the driving history, running them through TCIC, NCIC, checking for criminal history. We also run their TCOL history to see as far as, what departments they have been with, if they have been with the departments, what they have on their training record, and all of that's put together as a part of their background. Any questions so far before
No.
Okay, so it does have information in our policy also regarding our non-sworn personnel, which would not qualify, for civil service. Civil service does only, meet for the sworn personnel, but that is something that's in our policy as well. The next policy goes into the career development, promotions, and transfer. So for career development, promotions, and transfer,
Which page you on?
that's for policy 4.3,
4.3.
4.3,
Oh, there we
page
go.
1.
All right, perfect, got it.
So when I arrived here, there was, I'll just say, an interesting promotion process. It was generally the, we like you, so congratulations. And I definitely, I've been a part of those processes, we'll just say back in the days, I don't want to say when those days were, but,
Right.
And tell my age by any means, because I've been doing this since I was 3. But in the ideal world, I felt that it needed to have a fair process. And so we set about certain standards as a part of our process. And so now for promotions, there is a written testing and in addition to an interview testing. And that's done for our corporals, for our sergeants, and for our detectives. Anything positioned for the lieutenant, that is done on a larger scale, more of an assessment type center. And that information's broken down in this policy as well. Excuse me. So when you look for on page 2 there, we have the different categories that has the eligibility for each. as far as for patrol corporal, patrol sergeant, detective corporal, detective sergeant, lieutenant. Each of those positions have certain minimum qualifications that they have to have. And then if you go on to the next page, it goes into the actual promotion process. They, of course, need to meet the eligibility. Then they have to submit that letter of intent, or what's often referred to as a letter of interest. Then again, they have to pass the written examination and then do an oral board review. Again, our oral board review is a mixed panel. It's not set up for, truthfully, for myself, for captain or lieutenant to be a part of that process, because we utilize the peers that they're involved in addition to we pull individuals from outside at other agencies to be able to have some non-bias. We've pulled in from other city positions as well. Yes, sir.
You already mentioned testing an interview, but does seniority play a role, or is it taken into
Yes.
account?
Yes, I got a
for-
sheet that we're about to go over here in just a
for
minute as well.
promotions?
Yes. So when they have their oral board, there's the series of questions that they go through on that. So then at that point, they have their written testing, and they have the oral board. That information is then taken together to, if you go to the end of that policy there, you'll see a spreadsheet that looks like this. And that's one of the scoring sheets. So we have scoring sheets like this. I just printed the sergeant one, but we do have ones that are very similar for the corporal, for the detective, when we held our lieutenant process. And this does a breakdown of points. As you see here, the written exercise for any questions they missed is minus a point. You have, if there's two different boards, if there's an external and an internal, again, depending on what the process is. If, let's say you have 5 members on that board, and 3 of the members scored Officer Smith first. That was the first, one. So that's their first choice, their first selection. Officer Smith then receives 10 points for each of those first placements. And then let's say the other 2 gave Officer Smith third on their list. That was their third choice. So then he would receive 5 and 5 from each of them for that placement. Then you go down to peer and sergeant total. What we do is we ask each of the peers, when they go through the interview process, if there were going to be 2 individuals promoted today, besides yourself, who's the other individual that you think would be, most warranted for the promotion? Because we believe that, the peers know who best and everything to help, that they feel they know the best of their competition, if you will. And so you'll oftentimes have a number of peers that list the candidate that already scored number 1 on the board, but it does give them more points, but we think that peer input is important. And then we also do the same for the sergeants. Each time we have a promotion process, we ask the sergeants, you've worked with these individuals, who do you feel has done the best job? Who do you feel is ready for that next level? So they also receive points for each of those. So it does still have that buy-in, if you will, from our first-line supervisors and from the officers, but it's not such as heavily weighted as it is on what's referred to as the good old boy system of just, we like you, so we'll promote you. Next, we have a productivity range. So you have, if they've been in the top 5 for, traffic stops for the agency, or in the top 5 for cases for the agency. I'm a big believer in allowing officers to foster what their interest is, and I tell the guys, if you enjoy running traffic, then go run traffic. If you enjoy going and doing the security checks, go do the security checks. If you enjoy going to the calls for service and helping those families solve those cases, then do that. Just do something. And so ultimately, what we're looking at is, what is it that they're doing? What type of productivity is it that they're doing, contributing to the community, and then they receive credit on that. Then we have total service, which is the total number of years that they're currently been in law enforcement, followed by FPD service, because if we bring somebody in with previous years of experience, they may have only been at this agency for 3 years, but they might have been at another agency 5 years before, so giving 8 years of total experience, where somebody else might have been here 3 years and this is their first agency, And so we're comparing a 3-year and an 8-year officer. So we give points for each of those. Time in supervision, if they've ever been in supervision before. TCO proficiency, if they're an intermediate, advanced, master, college hours and college degrees. And then leadership training. I do not limit just my supervisors to receive leadership training. If I have a patrol officer that puts in for a leadership class, I foster that. I encourage them as far as getting as much training as they can, because I think that knowledge is power, and at the end of the day, the more knowledgeable our team is, the more powerful we're going to be as a whole. And so if I have an individual that's already taken that initiative and go into those leadership trainings, then we're going to give him credit for those trainings. In addition to, we have additional non-paid tasks, tasks that they're nothing that they're getting paid for other than their, regular hourly rate, but it requires a lot more attention and a lot more, specialty, becoming such as a firearms instructor. SRT is the special response team, so what's often referred to as SWAT. The TPCA, we have an accreditation program manager. The individual that is the program manager, again, requires a lot of additional paperwork. Our FTO coordinators and supervisors, our Marine officers and our canine officers. All those positions are positions that they take on without any additional pay. And so if those individuals are, again, taking those initiatives to do more for the agency and do more for the community, we provide those credit points for that. Any questions on anything for the promotion process? No? Okay. All right, so then next is the employee disciplinary process. I also included with it, behind it is the PD grievance process in addition to the city policy. So you'll see, because sometimes in our policies for the PD policy, we reference the city policy. And so when we have certain things that fall into line with the city policy, we just reference on the chapter of the city policy, so I provided copies of both of those as well. Currently, as our discipline process, I do offer what is referred to as alternative discipline, is something that I brought here for this department. And truthfully, when I came to the department, there was no discipline process because they didn't take complaints, they didn't perform investigations. It had been a number of years, we'll just say, before anything had taken place. So we reestablished a complaint process. We reestablished a discipline process. And even though I am a believer in accountability, I think that having alternative methods is always good, and giving those employees the options to choose. So I realize that in civil service, there's limitations on that, but we do offer sometimes where, I'm trying to think for an example. Let's say an employee commits some type of act that would warrant a written reprimand, and we look at that situation and say, really, we have to document this behavior. This was not a good behavior. We need to teach this person more to be able to get them to understand the seriousness of what it is they've done. And so we might give an alternative of, okay, would you like a written reprimand, or it's still documented, a verbal counseling, and you write us a 5-page paper on the Supreme Court case that is relevant to the infraction you committed. So now you have a choice, because a written reprimand, you go back to career, that disqualifies you for promoting for 12 months. A documented verbal counseling does not. So then it kind of gives that a little bit power for the employee, because at the end of the day, what we're wanting is that employee to learn, but also to correct that behavior. And a lot of times you will have employees pick that alternative discipline because it is the lesser of two evils. However, I have also had employees say, I'm not writing a paper, so tell me where to sign. And that's okay too, because again, there just has to be some type of accountability measures associated with it. But very rarely, I would say in my 3.5 years, I think we are probably at the fourth time that someone has been suspended. You know, most disciplines have been something that could be handled at a written reprimanded or a counseling record. And so it's very rare that it goes into that progressive discipline. Most people tend to, you know, get the picture and get the grasp early, but it has happened since I've been here, so. So any questions over any of that? Like I said, has a lot of different reference points for y'all to be able to review through, and I did not think to bring, and my apologies on it, but I can go ahead and email the list of the Texas Police Chief's directives. Like I said, it's 170, it's either 173 or 178, I believe. And so if you would like to be able to see that list to reference to each, like to see here 2.08, what does that directive say? So I can have that document emailed to y'all. I don't know why I didn't think to print that up, so my apologies on that.
And are you okay with that, Dr. Kelly?
Yes.
That's- If you could, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was about to say, this is kind of what had brought together, and just for y'all to be able to review and see
Yeah.
some of the things and how we process right now. And 2026 was the year to redo policies anyway, so we are just kind of, we're kind of in a little bit of a lag right now, and, you know, just maintaining it at a very slow pace, because we're wanting to make sure we tie things in with civil service and the local rules that'll be established.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And again, thank you for the supporting documents on the backside. I'm just now seeing those, Chapter 7 and Chapter 6.
Yes.
So we're perfect. So I have no further questions. Does anybody in the group?
I don't have any questions.
No, I don't either. Hey, everything's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Very dry, for sure. All
Yeah.
Thank you.
right, thank you.
Chief Motley. Thank you, Chief Howell.
I just want to add that our small department and low turnover for promotion, it's very rare, but what I do on those promotions, even like when I look for my admin or my deputy chief, is check the box off what's pretty much required for the job. We have a 3-panel interview process that they go through, and each of those panels grade them. The first panel is directors and a citizen on that board. The second panel is a panel of their peers in this county or neighboring counties. I bring in some retired guys as well that have supervised in departments. And then the third one is a role play. In my common actors is Joe Ripple and Hogan at the Port of Freeport. So those two by themselves will play really give you a hard time to see where you're going to break at or how you handle the roles on them. So especially it's really interesting watching the fire marshal over a sprinkler question. And the buddy's in there to defend the whole thing. But we use it that way in our promotion process going up. So it's not covered in our documents or anything like that, but that's typically how we address that on evaluation of the employee. Just want to bring that up. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I was saying, well, after that thorough review on both of your parts, we really appreciate you giving us an oversight and giving a peek into the culture of both your agencies, which give us better insight as we go through to try and put these civil service rules together that are most equitable and fair and, you know, meet the, you know, the standards of what the citizens of Freeport expect from their public servants. So we really appreciate your time and efforts on that. So going back to the agenda, I think, do we have any other questions, or do we want to, the rules that we've had from, I think it was Alvin and San Marcos and Missouri City, I think they gave us a good overview on what they have, and I think it kind of mirrors some of the things that are already in place. any other ones, but I'll leave it up to the group of how y'all want to proceed.
Well, looking at most of the stuff, especially with the fire department, on what we had already discussed on the San Marcos and the Alvin, even though Alvin, they compress a lot more, but, pulling everything in from San Marcos and going along with what they had in place, I think it's gonna work out pretty good.
Yes, sir.
Got to remember to keep hitting, I keep Duncan saying, talking to Mike, people can't hear. So I think probably the next step was maybe to get back into the book and then do the next chapter, or get ready to read those for the next meeting, which would, let me if I could, because we went through chapter 3 or Article 3 and Article 4, so I think the next one up is Article 5. Yeah, Article 5 would start the actual promotion eligibilities, which we did some of that today. And then Article 6, which is the compensation piece, which would probably be in line with what the city already has in place. So Dr. Kelly, for the next meeting, would probably say if we could get a look at the compensation scale that you have for the different classifications and positions in each fire, EMS, and with the police department. If we can get that, maybe it's, sometime either end of this week or early part of next week, that way we have some time to look at it and then have questions that we can get to Clarissa in time for, posting of the agenda. Ms. Chief.
So just so you know, at last year's budget review, one of the things that was a directive by council was to redo the pay matrix for the police department. Once I showed them how some of our steps were not even 1%. Some of our steps were like, 0.93% and literally pennies of steps. And so the matrix that is in place right now will not be the same matrix that will come in place for the next budget year. So just to kind of give you that little bit of insight, so.
Were those positions included in the compensation survey that was previously conducted?
That I do not know.
Okay, I'll look.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not sure how Donna did
I
that.
know your position's in there, I just don't recall if the other officers are.
Yeah, because currently, like, the way it is set up, there's a step every single year. But the steps, like I said, are just, some of them are just ridiculously small, especially in the beginning. And what I had stated was, people make that decision oftentimes in that first 5 years if they're going to stay at an agency. And when you're not even offering them peanuts, you're offering peanut shells. They don't stay. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was also kind of redirect it into, instead of just these little raises every single year, have it as a group, like a level. Patrol Officer 1 covers this many years. A Patrol Officer 2 covers this many years. So we're currently getting some examples from some other cities, which will be a part of the budget process when we have some of the meetings with Dr. Kelly and with council, for everyone to be able to review and determine what to go forward with. But, so like I said, I did want to just let y'all know what you see now would not be what would be in place come October.
Chief Motley.
Tim Kelty took the fire department off of step raises. So let you know that we are not on step raises. So that is a challenge when we have candidates come in that have CBA, collective bargainings. They know what they're making second year, third year, fourth year. So our challenge is that starting salary, and then folks that know the history of the fire service, what they compare out there on the market. So just let you know that's where we're at. We were taken off of it. We did present a case back where it didn't mirror 3% that was promised every year before we really saw the economy change and cost of living. So I even allowed my lieutenants to sit down and have the conversation with the administration, and they realized we were doing the best we can to push it forward to stay there, but it was taken away from the fire department for fire and EMS.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So to kind of clarify, so for the next meeting, we'll kind of review Article 5 and then Article 6, the compensation that Dr. Kelly will get to us hopefully by the end of the week, and we'll have some time to review that and then get any agenda items that we want to discuss to Clarissa by Wednesday at noon. Great. So she can get it out. All right. So with that being said and no other discussions, I will see if somebody wants to make a motion.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may. We had originally discussed bringing the employee shifts in
Yes.
for discussion with the commission after the chiefs. Do you still want to tackle that at the next meeting?
What do you think? Do you want to, I'll defer to the group. Do you want to tackle, bring the employees in to have a conversation in the next meeting,
We can.
if you don't mind?
Excellent, thank you. I know there were multiple shifts to consider.
So yeah, that was going to be one of the things as far as that, for of course, fire and police, we have the different shifts, the days and the nights. If, I know how y'all's schedule is, like on the Wednesdays, which for us, Wednesdays is, every Wednesday is a different shift, which is just 2 days and 2 nights. We have a red days and a red nights, and then a blue days and a blue nights. So, this Wednesday, you have one color on, next Wednesday would be another color on. I don't know how many will come to the meeting. I anticipate, mainly some of the members from the association and potentially some others, if nothing else, out of curiosity. But that maybe not doing it like all in one night, to try to pick a couple of different nights just to be able to, because I do have some guys that drive a distance. I know Chief Motley has some guys that drive a distance, and so, number one, it doesn't become so cumbersome for y'all, but, in addition to just allowing multiple opportunities for employees to be able to come forward.
How many groups do you have? In other words, is it 4?
So
Let's-
for,
let's split up on 4 Wednesdays?
so
or-
for patrol and everything, like I said, you have your reds, so you have a days and nights, and they change shifts at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So like if you did one like per se today, then next Wednesday would actually be the opposite shift, and then the next Wednesday goes back. So every other Wednesday is the same shift. So it would require the commission to, kind of like I said, and I can definitely send you the schedule of marked of reds and blues. And I was about to say, I'm sure Chief Motley has one kind of because y'all do ABC for their ABCs. So if y'all wanted to be able to look at that to help you incorporate, on picking some of the dates for the employee meetings.
So if I'm understanding correctly, if we were to split it up, we can cover everyone on 2, if we do it 2 Wednesdays, is
I
that
would-
correct? Or,
How would you just put on your agenda over a period of time, this
Yeah, that's up-
opportunity, and then
yeah.
they have ability on their shifts or off shift to
Yeah,
come
that's
up
what-
to you?
Yeah, it was gonna be
Sometimes
my
just leave it as a
suggestion.
fixed line item, and then they can come in and say, 4 or 6 sessions during
They
that
can
period,
Probably
they can
be
choose.
part of the first citizens' comments. We can take them beforehand.
Yeah, it was gonna be
Before.
my recommendation to maybe select 4 Wednesdays, just to, because you do have for trainings, for vacations, different things like that taking into play in the different shifts.
Yeah, I think that'd probably work best for the group, and it would, again, it just goes back to my strong belief is, if we're going to be governing, we should at least give them an opportunity
Absolutely.
to be heard. Not saying we're going to do or agree what they want to do, but at least give them the opportunity so we can figure out where they're coming from.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hard trying to pinpoint.
Yeah.
You need to come in on this Wednesday, and you 3 need to come the next Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, if you could do it at least at 4 Wednesdays, throwing it on 4 different meetings, and I think 6 would be even better.
Just make it
Yeah, we'll
available
just
to
make-
them if
Just
they
make
wanna
it
come.
available that starting from this date to this date, and then we could push that email out to our staff, and they would, they would be able to know that any of these meetings, they have the option to be able to come forward. I think it would just give you the most response, if you will, the most opportunity.
I agree.
Okay. I agree with that. So if I can maybe get a motion that maybe we do I'll make a motion that for the next 2 months, the next 8 meetings that we have, that we put a line item as part of the agenda for any public servant, police, fire, EMS that wants to come in to address the commission, that they have the opportunity to do that at the beginning of our meetings.
The only other thing I have is, if I remember correctly, we had agreed that we were going to ask questions and that we were going to ask the same questions to everyone.
Correct.
And we don't have the questions yet. So we'll have to put those questions together
Yeah,
before they show up to the meeting.
Yes, sir, I would agree. And I think the questions would be, again, similarly along the lines, limited scope that we asked the chiefs. Hey, what's your position on, disciplinary process? What's on, the promotional process? What's on, service credit for, time in the agency versus time outside the agency? Those narrowly very focused questions on that perspective where we get their sense where they're at. So at least, down the road, if it becomes, well, I didn't like that, or I didn't want to do that, or you didn't, chief, you didn't take it in consideration. It's like, no, everybody had the opportunity to give their opinion on it, and the commission, being us, have take the road that gives the biggest bang for the buck of what we got.
Because we did that with like our scoring process, and of course, there were those that didn't have a college degree that didn't feel like that college should be in consideration. Then we had those that had college that felt like college should have more points. And then we had those that, that all their time had been at Freeport, but it had only been 2 years, and they felt like that was worth more than having 10 years total at, another agency. So, so you'll still get mixed reviews on it, but I still think it's good for those individuals to be able to come forward and express that.
Yeah. But in the interim, between now and next week, if we got questions that we want to, propose or ask, during this limited session, just throw them in the agenda. And
I think we should put that list together. And if we want to go a step further, is go ahead and send those questions out so that they have an opportunity to be prepared. They know what the questions are going to be beforehand.
I agree with that.
If it comes out as part of the agenda, it's posted in the station. You mentioned to them that it's posted for them to look at.
All right, so I think we're at Wednesday today. Want to say shoot for a Friday date to have some proposed questions that we can get. Then we'll just email them to Carissa, so we'll be part of the agenda, and we'll just go from there, and we'll get them streamlined. All right. So we got a motion. I need a second.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
And so that motion carries. We'll do that for the next 8 meetings. With that, we will need another second motion to do something.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, I need a second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, meeting is concluded. Thank you very much. Thank you, chiefs.
Clarissa.
Yeah, but this thing is remarkable.